Hi, I'm Alec from EasierHabits.com, and I coach entrepreneurs in how to harness the power of good habits to build meaningful and successful businesses. I am super excited today to announce that I will be going on the entrepreneur journey with you here on YouTube in real time. I have a new venture that I'm excited to announce, and you will get to see me take it from initial vision and conception through market research, through trials and tests, et cetera, and implementation, and all the iteration that goes back into creating a successful business. Hopefully, most businesses fail, so there's going to be a lot of failure, even if it is successful, and who knows? And so one of the things that's exciting about putting this out before I've succeeded is you get to see what it's really like. And this is not going to be a victory after the fact story cleaned up for your consumption. Hopefully this gives you a real and raw look into the difficulties and challenges of starting a new business venture from the very conception. And hopefully it gives you also some encouragement as you start or grow your business along with me. I am just so excited to be able to share the journey. And first, I want to give you just a little bit of background about how I came up with the idea. And then I will talk about how I measured that idea against my values. Last week, I talked about how I developed my values as a coach over time until I found the winning combination that really made things clear for me. And actually, this project, I feel like, was kind of the cornerstone of that. The first time I really felt like, yes, that whole package is what I need to be as a coach. And so, I was very excited to hit upon this idea. And I talked about how I derived those values. So I'll talk about how I came up with this idea, how I compared it against my values, and then thought through what the market looks like, what are potential products in this space, what's already there, and kind of what are the size of those markets, what are the opportunities there. Not full-on market research, just making sure that this is not just a cool idea that I'm into, but there might actually be a business to build, and we'll have to validate that with market research later, but we can do some of the thinking around different business models up front. Lastly, I'll think through what are my personal strengths and weaknesses, where am I going to need to get help to make this a reality? Because you might decide after having a cool idea that there is a market for it, but you're just not the person that can bring it to market. So I talked in my values video about how I discovered my keystone value of exploration. I love having exploration, like vicarious exploration through my coachees, hearing about my clients' businesses and kind of getting to discover the ins and outs there is great, but it's not quite the same as being able to explore myself. And there was just an added energy when I realized, oh, I don't have to be either a coach or an entrepreneur. I can do both. And so far I've been doing that in small projects, right? I worked on a foreign language learning video app a little bit. I worked with my wife on helping her design an English language learning community, a paid community. And in between that, I think I did just a little hobby of building a geek Discord community because I have a client who part of their business is supporting Discord communities of people. And what I wanted to do this time is really go back to one of my ideas and build it out. And that would be a little bit more ambitious, right? I'd have to carry the whole project from start to finish, not just like chip in or help out. And I went deep for this one, actually, back to an idea I had even in middle school or high school, which I went to like a VR party. And I remember they have, these wide VR rings to like keep you from walking off the pedestal, and you're still like mostly stationary with a gun, right? I was talking with my friends about this. The moment when we can intuitively design 3D environments from within VR, I think VR will explode. Basically, right now, in fact, just the other day, I went into Unity, and I'm a coder, but not necessarily like a Unity programmer. And I did websites, so it's kind of different. But I like to just open up Unity occasionally and dabble in it. And I think I spent about an hour trying to figure out how to get like a red square to go on the ground, and I almost got there. It was squarish and it was red, but it was also flashing in a strange and alarming manner. And I'm not sure, between, did I select the wrong base object? Was there something off with the material that I was attaching to that square? It was, like an hour to produce a square. Now, obviously, like a professional who's trained in those workflows is going to do that. And if you're really serious about like 3D modeling, you're not going to do it inside of Unity, although there's some tools for roughing out in early geometries and kind of testing them in your game that are fun. So, but that's really hard. And it's awkward in part because you're a 3D person working on a flat 2D screen, and then, trying on the other side of this screen, like trying to pretend there's a 3D world inside of that on this flat screen, right? And that makes things more complicated. And for example, some of the things that are hard to get are a sense of scale, and you don't quite get the sense of the environment. You don't quite get the same sense of feedback too, because like you're manipulating this chunk of shape, and then then you hit play and kind of run the game, and then move your character around to explore the scene, which is very different than just like building it while you're in the middle of the scene yourself, right? So I think there's an enormous opportunity to create 3D worlds from within VR. Now, that doesn't mean people are already doing it, but aren't already doing it. Like, this is a new thought, right? People are doing this. But the thing is that it hasn't necessarily become easy or intuitive, or hasn't hit the right audience. And so I think there is a mission, not yet a business idea, and we'll explore how to turn this into a business idea, a mission where I make creating 3D worlds fast and intuitive in VR. And that's my mission. That's exciting. That's an exciting mission for me. And then it is up to me to take this cool idea or this cool mission, all right, figure out if it works with my goals and values, figure out what kind of business models might realistically be attached to this and what kind of markets there might be. Again, I'd have to validate this with research, but I can do some initial brainstorming so I know what to research. And then lastly, evaluate, is this something I can pull off? And what types of partnerships or resources or studying am I going to have to do to be able to really pull this mission off? So my values are empowering other people to grow meaningful and successful businesses, storytelling, and exploration. And I already have in my coaching practice, my one-on-one coaching that focuses highly on the empowering people aspect of this, although there's some exploration as we explore different ideas and business techniques. And there's some storytelling that goes on as I might recraft some of their narratives of discouragement. And one of, like, for instance, one story people commonly tell themselves is, I'm not disciplined enough, or I don't have enough willpower because I'm not in control of my habits. And I try and help them craft a different story that you haven't found a habit worth keeping yet. And I can help you find that, right? So there's some storytelling in it, but it really focuses on the empowering piece. And, there's this part of my coaching aspect right here with you and me, right? Where I'm storytelling primarily, and I'm storytelling hopefully to empower you to grow or start a meaningful and successful business. And I can explore ideas, I can explore potential new content here, but at the same time, it is focused on storytelling. Well, this idea of VR worlds, one, you're creating a 3D world to explore, right? There's that exploration aspect to it. There's the idea that I'm exploring creative worlds, potentially creative works of fiction. We'll get to that in the business section. That I'm then turning into these 3D worlds. There's the technical side of things and the artistic side of things to explore lots of different areas. I hadn't worked in VR. I've done programming and interfaces, but like flat 2D web interfaces. So it's very different than working in VR. So there's a lot personally to explore. However, the same project could be used to support my other goals too. So it's not going to take away from them. It's going to add to them, right? If I tell the story of my mission to make creating 3D worlds intuitive and quick in virtual reality, right? If I tell that story here on YouTube, I'm bolstering my YouTube audience and bringing in people and practicing my storytelling skills. Also, I am, as I'm capturing this, if I not just launch the project, but I document, all the challenges and my thought process as I go through building a business based on this mission, that also is empowering other people with my example, hopefully, to have ideas, create businesses of their own. So it works with all three goals, but it focuses and really hits the one that I wasn't quite focusing on before. So it's really exciting to see this work with my goals. And of course, like checking maybe broader life goals, this is still something I can mostly do flexibly. I'll have to uh, lock down, some parts of my schedule for particular individual pieces of this. But it's still, for example, not necessarily something that requires me to travel and be away from my family. It's something I can do. There's several of these ideas that I can do from home. So this mission of building 3D worlds or creating apps that build 3D worlds or popularizing the building of 3D worlds, whichever angle you take on it, really can fit my lifestyle. So yes, it's a win. It fits my values and goals. The question is, what kind of businesses are there in making 3D worlds easy and quick and intuitive to build in virtual reality? So as I started to do just a little bit of experimentation with this, ordered my VR headset, which is exciting, and played around with a few of the common apps. I looked up what those apps are. I looked up some videos on how to use the existing 3D painting and sculpting and modeling apps in VR. Then I noticed that there are people who live sculpt 3D environments, and they have channels on YouTube. Most of these channels are pretty small, right? They're, I don't know, 1,000 subscribers or something like that, a few hundred views or 1,000 views, maybe a couple hundred subscribers. But a lot of them are kind of small because the VR 3D modeling space is very niche, right? There's a bigger chunk of people who do 3D modeling of some kind, right, in the game space or in the VR space. But like the VR space is a subset of that. It's going to be smaller. It's going to be a little bit more niche. Most people have a computer and maybe a computer that can run Unity or Blender or some of those other software programs. Not everyone has a VR headset. And there's a good reason for that, partly because a VR headset can, if you wear it for over an hour, can make you a little bit queasy. So there are limitations to that niche. But one of the ways you can be an entrepreneur is not just designing a new product. Like, all right, there are already 3D sculpting and painting and modeling apps for different purposes and with different strengths already on VR. But one way you can be an entrepreneur is introduce a product or content to a new market. So, for example, if I take someone who's just sculpting 3D environments from their own head for a market of VR enthusiasts who also want to 3D model as opposed to like shoot other people, right? That very narrow niche of people. How can I bring this to a bigger audience? And one of the ideas I came up with was partnering with a fantasy author who has these great fantastic environment settings, have them read aloud descriptions of their settings and have someone live sculpt or paint that in VR, with their feedback. And so you could actually, on the YouTube channel, watch the 3D environment unfold. And at the end of this, we could produce some kind of like 3D tour where there's a camera that flies through the environment and gives you like a 3D tour of the finished space. And so what this does is this opens up the market dramatically to, for instance, fans of fantasy. So now you don't have to be a VR enthusiast and you don't have to have a VR headset. You don't have to be using these VR sculpting apps to appreciate the live sculpting. So, and since I'm a nerd and a fan of Brandon Sanderson, for example, and The Way of the Kings has many interesting places and environments that you could create. You could create the war camps on the Shattered Plains or the remote mountain fortress, enormous mountain fortress of, I don't even know how to pronounce it, Urithiru. I always want to roll those R's. I don't know if they are Urithiru. Anyway, you could do something trippier and do like the cognitive realm in there. So like there's a lot of environments, for example, that you could take from The Way of the Kings in particular in Brandon Sanderson and like live sculpt, this is my dream or whatever, while Brandon Sanderson is describing or reading passages from his book. That would be amazing. That'd be fantastic. And he would have a large audience of people, I think, that would be interested in seeing um, both the output of creating a virtual world and like kind of the process of that virtual world unfolding, as well as like the dynamic between author and artist, I think is just a fascinating thing personally for me to watch. So I would definitely, as a fantasy person, geek out on that, even if I weren't starting to get into the sculpting area. And so I think there's an opportunity where you could take people who are sculpting on smaller channels and then partner them with authors who have big audiences and create this unique performance art that has a bigger market. And of course, like, all right, what's the actual business model here? Well, it's any YouTube business model. You might get ads from YouTube. You could be an affiliate, and not just an affiliate of like headsets, VR headsets or apps, but you could be an affiliate of fantasy books and all sorts of things that might appeal to a fantasy audience. That would be one income stream. Now, another business model that you potentially could work off of that is that artists often do commission work, right? They might do, for if you're into Dungeons and Dragons, there are people who commission artwork for their characters. So you could build a market specifically for people who want to commission a 3D environment or a 3D modeling of a character, for example. And who would that appeal to? Well, it would appeal to it could appeal to nerds and hobbyists who just want a 3D model of their cool Dungeons and Dragons character, or appeal to authors potentially. So while I was playing around with sculpting, and this idea of sculpting fantasy environments came to me. I decided to sculpt out a environment from my unpublished novel. There's it's in the northern mountains, cold northern mountains. There's a small village perched on a bluff called Frosty Butte, and above it, perched even higher, precariously on the mountain, is the fortress-like Muskrake's Adventuring University, or Muskrake's University for Adventurers. Anyway, I just started modeling that out, playing with that for fun, and I realized that as I zoomed in and out and could even vicariously, like, or actually feel like I'm walking through it. You swing your arms to like walk through the environment in Sculpt VR. So I'm going through like this. That looks inappropriate. But I'm furiously flipping my arms to walk through walk through the environment, and I'm realizing there's all sorts of opportunities just for me as like if I get back to editing that novel, right, where when I'm describing the scene, I could actually look at it and describe it. And there were things that I kind of thought in my head that didn't pan out, and that I had to reposition them when I thought about it. Because basically I imagined the character going over a hill, and then there's a valley, and then a path back up to a bluff that passes the village and then goes on up into the mountains and into the university. And I'd initially arranged it like in a particular way, and I realized that you couldn't see both the village and the university from that angle, so I repositioned things. So there was a more profound understanding of that environment that I got. So, I mean, maybe authors, right? Either as a vanity project, a marketing tool, so they could, bring their fans into their 3D world as a marketing tool. That would be a reason to commission, or understanding, right, like building environments that are going to be key in your narrative so that you can describe them, so you can really help you think through that environment and what's happening. And I think I'm probably, to be honest, a much bigger market potentially is just indie gamers who want custom 3D environments, right? There's a Unity shop already for pre-made items, with some customization. But imagine if you could go to a website and commission, like see an artist that has a cool, unique style and commission, a character or in a 3D environment. That would be a cool market to build. And so that would be one. And obviously the business model would be that you take a cut of the commissions, right? Basically build the marketplace, bring the sculptors, bring the audience, and then and then take it as a platform of kind of commissions. What else? So another thing you could do is sell your own product. This would work really well, especially with the channel. So if you have a channel where you're sculpting live sculpting videos, you could do a paid course on the sculpting or painting in the different tools, and you could advertise that course on the YouTube environment. So that could be a great business, right there. And another business, now we're getting into a little bit more stress territory, is having tried some of these 3D sculpting apps, I realized that a lot of them there's some intuitive parts, but there's some frustrating things like scale. It would be awesome, for example, if there were a VR environment where I could snap to different levels of scale. So I could snap to actual scale with humans. I could snap to a, table-sized scale where I could, just build pieces here and there, right? Like small pieces, move them around easily, and then snap back into the full scale, right? Maneuvering with scale is kind of difficult and clumsy. And when you're at a large scale, it's often very hard to move around because it's slow to like pull and drag objects or environments that are very large, and you're like doing this over and over and over again, or you're shrinking and then trying to like expand it around you, except for as it scales, you realize you didn't grab exactly the right spot, so you're in a completely different area, right? There's issues like that. There's issues in terms of what it is like to build and transform shapes, and other issues that could be made more intuitive. Now, this is where it definitely becomes a reach, but that could be a fulfillment of this mission, right? My mission is to make it easier and more intuitive to create 3D worlds in virtual reality. And so all of these would fill that to some extent, right? One would be popularizing it with the YouTube channel. Another would be making it easier by giving people easier access to creators who can sculpt 3D worlds for them, and giving those creators access to an audience. Doing the course could be teaching people how to do it, but this could definitely be the fulfillment where I make an app designed to quickly create 3D environments, and maybe it would have a set of tools that are specific to creating houses and architecture or plant life and things like that, that make it really easy. Like you can drag in some fir trees and then customize them or something, like, and scatter them, right? Do something like that. You could create a software that is well designed to, create mountains and waves and water and desert and swamp and those types of things, rather than something that's more general painting app. And that way you could create environments much more quickly, and then hopefully though with some kind of custom feel. So can I pull these off? Do I have the skill set? So, I mean, the short answer is no. And that's what makes it interesting. I'm going to have to learn and collaborate with people. So for the YouTube channel, I am not a 3D sculptor. So I could either learn to do that, which will take some time, and I'm going to try it anyway because it's fun. But more realistically, there are people who do sculpt 3D environments, even some people live sculpting on Twitch and other things. So that is an area where I could work with people, partner with someone to create a new channel, and we'd split the income. I'd work on the production side of things, where I am scheduling guests and affiliates and marketing the channel, and they'd get to focus on the 3D sculpting side of things, the product itself, and hopefully leveraging the author's audiences, right? That could grow the channel to much bigger than the niche audience of people who just watch like live VR sculpting because they're VR enthusiasts. So that would be the key partnership I would need there. But other than that, it's just continuing learning how YouTube works, and marketing and networking. So all of those skills are fairly straightforward. That is something I can do right now, and in fact I'm starting to reach out to VR sculptors and get to know a few of them, and start those conversations. So that's good to go. A online marketplace. Well, I'm a web developer, so yes, building a platform website, I could do that from scratch, and I could easily do it with a lot of the tools available from something like WordPress with all the plugins. So that would just be the matter of the website, and then the marketing to the right people, getting the VR artists on board, getting people interested in VR sculpting, and I'd have to find, the right niches. Is it indie game developers? And, maybe test some ads, targeted ads at authors or people deep into role-playing games, who is game masters, etc., who might want to see commission a 3D model of their world just to see it come to life, right? So that would be one. That would be pretty straightforward. And the other thing that would also be very straightforward is the course, right? So I'm not a content expert for VR sculpting, although I do have a master's degree in instructional design, technically instructional psychology and technology, but essentially instructional design. And so I could work with the sculptor from the channel as the content expert and help them organize their skills and knowledge into a course that builds, step by step, that's engaging, that has good exercises. Because a lot of times people really don't give enough thought to how to support the practice of what they're telling. People just info dump all the time. And in some ways, this is an info dump, so you're welcome. But if you're designing specifically an online course, you want to pay real close attention to ways that people can test and evaluate their skills so they can figure out what they need to work on, and ways to practice. And people very rarely in an online course even think about, helping people do kind of self-diagnostic examinations. And even then, like, often the exercises are kind of meh. Depends on the person. So, but yes, I could definitely help organize that. There are already places where you could design your own online course to host on your own website, or places like, Udemy or Skillshare, where it's already a marketplace built for you and just upload your course. So that one. And then the biggest reach is the app. Now, there are a lot of people who immediately think, I want to be an entrepreneur, and that means I'm building an app. I'm going to build an app from scratch. And I even just talked to someone in the past few weeks who was had a brick and mortar location, but wanted to build an app to attract people to it. Build an app from scratch with artificial intelligence is like a buzzword, right? And I'm like, how about you use existing apps that do the exact same thing and are free and already made, rather than building an app? But a lot of people think of entrepreneurship as building the app, and building apps is time consuming and it's expensive, and you have to maintain them and bug fix and whatnot. So that is not how I recommend most people starting out a business, unless they like coding and product management, right? A lot of coders actually who jump into apps will just program because they like to program, and they spend almost no time validating whether this is something people want to use. You should validate before you code, and engineers typically don't do that. They just and I have done that exact same thing with one of my projects, my note-taking app. So anyway, that so I don't reach for the app lightly, and it comes last in this series of business ideas, partially because the way I would conceive this is you would start building up a business around VR 3D world sculpting, and then if successful, that stuff could fund the app and also lead to collaborations, right? Like, we build a big YouTube around 3D modeling and sculpting, we might get to know some professional 3D modelers, sculptors, and programmers who could help us create that app. So that I am a coder. I'm just not specifically a virtual reality coder, and the math around doing geometric transformations of objects in 3D space, I don't have that. I could learn that, right? And I probably would, just like I'm doing with the sculpting, even though I don't intend to be a sculptor, and I intend to partner with someone. I intend to learn more about it so that I can understand the business more completely. So I probably would dip my toes into it, but then I would pay additional 3D modelers and programmers to help us figure out how to create that app. There are existing apps, and that's not a problem because they're designed for different things. And I could, already having used them, pick out some features like scaling management that I find confusing and unintuitive in pretty much every single app. And so if you could simplify that, that would that alone would go immensely towards helping people build 3D shapes, 3D environments. So anyway, that's the rundown. So it fits with my values. There's a lot of different business opportunities here. I don't have to do them all and do them in the order I presented, but that gives me some flexibility to try out different things, pivot, different things that all still meet my mission and my values, and that all have a potential business model where they could make money. With the app, actually, one thing I forgot to mention would be that if I built a VR 3D modeling site, it would be somewhat niche. It probably wouldn't be a huge money maker yet, right? As VR gets bigger, that might be an opportunity to be a leader in that space. But another opportunity is to take some of the same tools or assets and make them available in like a 2D desktop version and hit a wider audience. So um, that second version wouldn't quite be my vision, but it would be a way to develop name brand recognition and build in until the 3D tools get bigger and more accessible, more widely used. So yeah, so there's several things I can do, and I've already discussed the things I would have to learn or partner with somebody to be able to accomplish. So that is my idea. I'd love to hear your feedback down in the comments. I know this is kind of a long video. This is very in-depth, and it's exciting to like dive into a new idea. Next steps will be around market research. I'll look at things like existing YouTube channels around sculpting and the size of them and the most popular ones. I'll look at existing apps. I will look at see if there's people on Reddit or Quora who are asking about 3D modeling in VR, etc. So I will go ahead. I'll see if there's online courses. Do all of that market research to validate that this market exists and that I could add a unique spin to it, unique value to it. If this example of thinking through a business idea has been helpful for you, please like this video so that other entrepreneurs can find it. If you want to go ahead and follow me on my journey of entrepreneurship, subscribe so you can get my VR project updates and other videos. And I would love to hear your comments or feedback. What do you think of this idea? Is this something you would be interested in? Is that a channel you would watch? What 3D environment would you like to see built, or what author would you like me to see if I can work with in the future? I'd love to hear all of those comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, and of course, until next week, make big changes, one small habit at a time.